As I told you guys last week, there's absolutely nothing to worry about when it comes to the price of Bitcoin. It is about where it should be right now. Most people probably believe that Bitcoin is going to drop down to 9,600 before it is ready for moon time. But what if I told you a scenario exists where Bitcoin could be hitting 40K within the next month? You'd probably tell me that I'm absolutely crazy. And you would be right, but that's totally beside the point for this video. Today, we're going to be looking at a chart that suggests Bitcoin is about to hit some crazy movement and maybe all-time highs well before many think that we will get there. I bet you guys would take that. Let's get it. Welcome to BitBoy Crypto, the hardest working channel in all of cryptocurrency. If you're new, hit that subscribe button and check the description for links you can use to connect with me in the Bit Squad. All right, guys, today we're going to be examining why Bitcoin could be about to absolutely blow up. Crypto Wendy O will be joining us to look at some TA on Bitcoin that will enhance your understanding about the chart we'll look at today, so you know what moves you can make with your crypto investments. Then we will be taking a look at some dangers regarding the crypto space. So why do people believe that Bitcoin is readying for a massive explosion to the upside? Look no further than Tether. Tether, that goes by the ticker USDT, is a stablecoin always valued at $1. Stablecoins are massive in the trading world. 60% of all trading involves stablecoins, despite the fact they only make up a small portion of the overall market. When people make big moves in or out of the market, then they often do so with stablecoins. What we have traditionally seen is that when Tether prints more USDT, the Bitcoin price explodes like clockwork. Over the last few days, it seemed like a breakout is imminent. Maybe it even happened by the time you're actually watching this video. The reason why Tether prints more USDT, though, is based on the belief traders need a higher supply to keep their trades liquid. You can kind of think of Tether like a sprinter at the Olympics. The way the best sprinters beat everybody else to the finish line is not only based on speed, it's also based on their ability to anticipate the starting gun. Tether anticipates huge market moves. Now look, this ecosystem is still driven by insiders and institutions. Just facts. As retail investors, we can take advantage of the fact that we know that. And we know Tether knows when big moves are coming. It seems like lately everybody has been so bearish. And it also seems like since we weren't able to hit the CME gap at 9,600, that the big traders now want to move the charts in the opposite direction. Now, the odds are still that the gap will fill, but it's starting to look like it might be after another crash. On Twitter, market cyclist Cole Garner said his opinion about the matter attached with a chart. On this chart, he shows the correlation on the bottom of the chart between the Tether printing events and the Bitcoin price action at the top. Consistently, we see big moves from the printing of USDT. And when we don't get a huge move up, we get sideways action. The price does not drop over the midterm. Bitcoin basically 4x'd after one major USD printing event. Could we see fireworks over the next month and Bitcoin could hit $40,000? Well, right now it feels like things are getting very interesting in crypto again. So let's find out what Crypto Wendy O believes is going to happen to the price of Bitcoin and its relationship to USD printing. Hey Wendy, good to see you. What do you see happening with the Bitcoin chart right now following the most recent USDT printing event?
Thank you for having me back, BitBoy, and shout out to the Bit Squad. Let's talk a little bit more about Tether. So generally, when new Tether is printed, the market should pump as money is being pushed into the crypto markets. However, that is not always the case, and this is why. So as a trader, I myself and other traders, we like to lock our profits into USDT so that profit is not impacted by market volatility. So generally, when we're locking our profits into Tether or moving it over into Tether, money is essentially leaving the market, and this will impact both Bitcoin and altcoins because additional liquidity that initially entered the market essentially is leaving. So let's go ahead and take a look at Bitcoin and see what the market is holding for us. So this is our Bitcoin daily chart. I know I've got a lot going on here. So taking a look in the MFI indicator, this is indicating money entering and leaving the market. We're kind of flat, and we're also presented with a little bit of downward tick, which is not really bullish because this is saying money is leaving the Bitcoin market. Taking a look at MACD, MACD is bullish. It has a bull cross here, and its price should essentially be heading up. However, we don't see confluence between these two indicators, so that's really not a good sign, especially for me. I like to see confluence with my indicators. Now, taking a look at actual Bitcoin price, we are sitting beautifully above the EMA 50 and the EMA 21. So this is a little bit bullish. However, we were really unable to get above this area of about $10,900, $11,000, which is pretty crucial area of support that needed to be flipped. So instead it's acting like resistance. Yes, our EMAs are still looking pretty decent. However, our EMA 100 is acting as beautiful support at about $10,400 here. So a failure to really close above $11,000, 10.9, is a little bit bearish for me. Also, too, another thing to note is we have our EMA 200 acting as support down here at about $9,700, where the CME gap is. So let's take a look at our 4-hour chart. 4-hour chart is also showing pretty heavy resistance here at about $11,000, and we are essentially teetering on this EMA 200. This is bearish to me, and I'm actually expecting price to kind of drop to about $10,600 and even to about $10,300. So overall, Bitcoin is really can go up or down, which I know most of you don't want to hear that. So what I will tell you is that a flip of support at about $11,000 would be bullish, and I think that we would be able to see a pump to about $11,700. However, if we're not able to successfully do this, price will fall to this EMA 100 at about $10,300, $10,400. So over the weekend, it's a little bit uncertain what will happen. So really make sure you guys pay attention to this daily candle close at about $11,400, because that's pretty much the make or break.
Thanks as always, Wendy. Great insight. You guys make sure to go over to her YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button for daily TA and news. But everything is not great in the world of crypto, and even Tether specifically. Regulation is taking over. I speculated in previous videos about privacy coins. The US is also in talks to ban all privacy coins or cryptocurrencies that don't use a public ledger and KYC. Further, all wallet providers and cryptocurrency services like staking will be required to have KYC as well. Lastly, all exchanges will be required to have KYC and AML similar to AMLD 5 or the Anti-Money Laundering Directive 5, which passed in Europe earlier this January. So what does all this mean? Well, it means the Wild West days of crypto are shortly coming to an end. While there are a lot of negatives about regulation, there are also positives. Regulation means acceptance and mainstream adoption. It also means less scams will be prevalent in the space. Now, the US isn't the only one moving. Another source states that the European Union is also about to bring in regulation, which has many projects scrambling for getting EU licenses to operate under the jurisdiction legally. But wait, there's more on the EU side. The body of governments just recently discussed banning stablecoins. This is something the US may follow behind. However, it's more likely that governments will allow some established stablecoin projects to operate if they're actually backed by something. It seems that everyone has noticed the influx of coins claiming to be on parity with a $1 peg, but some of them aren't backed by anything. That brings us back to Tether. So for our next story, things are heating up for Tether Inc. And also Brock Pierce, the CEO, may want to think about fleeing the United States and hiding somewhere. 2019, Pierce may have thought he was off the hook after Bitfinex won a motion in the New York Supreme Court. This win meant they wouldn't have to turn over documents pertaining to its use of the cryptocurrency Tether until a future date, if at all. However, in July of this year, amid all the pandemic chaos, a New York judge approved an investigation into Tether. This investigation is ongoing at the time of this recording, but new evidence, according to the Financial Action Task Force, or FATF, has showed that Tether could be used for money laundering by criminal organizations. If you've been living under a rock, Tether was previously accused of having ties to Crypto Capital, which was involved in the infamous Colombian cocaine business. Polish authorities seized 1.27 billion Polish zlotys, or $371 million from two companies, one of which, Crypto Capital, being connected to Bitfinex according to reports. This is part of the infamous $850 million seized from Bitfinex via Crypto Capital that's not going to be recovered. The bank behind Tether was in Poland. Bankus I think I butchered that, but that's literally what my teleprompter says. So is Tether backed by anything? Or is it like the Federal Reserve? Well, the same bank, and I'm not even going to attempt that name again, was used by Quadriga CX, and they became insolvent. Oh, and if you wanted to bet for or against Tether's solvency now, you can with the ironically hilarious titled Opium, a derivatives exchange, which has introduced credit default swaps for USDT. Although here's a newsflash, fiat is still the #1 most used instrument for money laundering and drug trafficking, period. Probably because drug dealers don't want to hold speculative assets, which not only go up in value, but more importantly, can go down in value. That would make it real hard to keep buying supply from the supplier, except during bull runs. I imagine it would be real hard explaining to Tony Montaña that the drugs you just sold for him are now only worth 50% of what buyers paid. That would probably result in a Scarface moment.
Say hello to my little friend!
Next, we're going to discuss another big story as rapper T.I. has been charged in a cryptocurrency scam by the Securities and Exchange Commission. The U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, or the SEC, charged 2 crypto startups and 8 individuals, including rapper Clifford Harris Jr., more commonly known as T.I., with violating the Securities Act of 1933, and other charges due to their involvement with a pair of initial coin offerings, or ICOs. The SEC alleged Friday that film producer Ryan Felton misappropriated funds and wash-traded cryptocurrencies using the proceeds from the 2 ICOs. Flick, a digital streaming platform, and CoinSpark, a digital asset trading platform. T.I. and Atlanta residents Owen Smith, Chance White, and William Spark Jr. are charged with violating securities law for recommending investors buy tokens from one of the sales without disclosing they were paid by the projects. That's a bad thing. But now it's your turn. So what do you think about the Bitcoin price? Will it be going up, or will it fill the gap first? Let me know what you think down below in the comments section. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to smash the like button and hit subscribe to become a member of the Bit Squad. Thank you so much for watching. Have a blessed day. BitBoy out.